What if I told you one of the greatest JRPGs ever made also has one of the most soul-crushing platinum trophies? Between dodging 200 lightning bolts, catching butterflies, and surviving 5 hours of Blitzball, this game kinda broke me. But thanks to your votes, I'm going back in. Today, we're getting every achievement in Final Fantasy X. Final Fantasy X was released all the way back in 2001 when some of you guys were still in diapers, and for me, it happens to not only be the best Final Fantasy game, but one of my favorite JRPGs of all time. Today, we're not only going to be getting every trophy in the first game, not the second one, but we have to fill out this monstrosity of a leveling system for 7 different characters and learn a new language in this 100+ hour playthrough. So sit back, grab some popcorn, and enjoy this journey through the land of Spira. We won't be getting our first achievement till about half an hour in, so how about some story beats? We start off this game as a kid playing underwater Quidditch, or whatever the hell Blitzball is, in the magical land of Zanarkand, when all of a sudden this big monstrosity shows up like your ex at a wedding. We get some kick-ass scenes of this guy here named Orin, who I absolutely adore. I remember as a kid thinking he was the coolest motherfucker I had ever seen. He hands us a sword, makes us fight some dudes, teaches us about overdrive, and then after talking to this big thing, this thing's called Sin by the way, tosses us away like last week's garbage right into the big tentacle monster's mouth. At least I hope it's the mouth. We end up in some ruins where I grab a few chests and then are tossed into a nice scripted boss fight before having to make ourselves a campfire. Our little camp sesh doesn't last long, however, when a monster attacks us and a bunch of dudes with guns break in. We win, get punched in the gut, and wake up on a boat with no clue what the hell just happened. 45 minutes in, we finally snag our first achievement, Speaking in Tongues, for finding one of 26 dictionaries that translate the only language where each letter needs its own damn book. We talk to these guys, find out they're all bad, and turns out this chick speaks English. Me and her go fight another boss, kick its ass real quick, and she feeds us like we're a stray cat. Her name's Riku, by the way. And she lets us know that we're insane because Zanarkand was destroyed 1,000 years ago.
You what?
Tidus reacts like any normal person would, you know, denial, confusion, and just when things start to make sense, Sin shows up again like,
"Hi, how are you?"
and tosses Tidus far away because fuck you, that's why.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
Our boy Tidus wakes up on Besaid Island and we get acquainted with this handsome coconut of a man named Wakka after showing off our moves. Funnily enough, I didn't realize before this playthrough, but he's voiced by the same guy who does the voice of Bender from Futurama. Very cool. Before moving on, I grabbed the moon crest, which will be handy later on, and Wakka lets us know that he wants us on his Blitzball team for an upcoming tournament. We say sure, and then head to the village where we learn about the Crusaders from Luzu and Gata and claim us another Albed Primer. Achievement number 2 isn't far off. After a little catnap, we hear the village summoner's been in the temple way too long, and Tidus, being the nosy protagonist that he is, decides to investigate. We do some puzzles where I pretend to know what I'm doing. Right, let's grab the one from the door. That's what it was. I have a brain every once in a while. Pick up the achievement The Right Thing, and subsequently get introduced to Goth Mommy Lulu, Angry Cat Dad Kimari, and our summoner Yuna. These 3, along with Wakka, are Yuna's guardians. Basically her sworn protectors on her pilgrimage to beat Sin, and they're also our Final Fantasy tropes. We have our black mage, our white mage, so on and so on. Yuna shows off her summoning skills and we get the option to name the Aeon, but I'm skipping that because I'm not about to call it Big Chungus 6'7" or some dumb shit like that. Fucking hate that meme. Yuna definitely flirts with Tidus despite Wakka disagreeing, and we hear about Wakka's brother shortly after. The following morning, Wakka gifts us with his dead brother's sword, and I'm unsure if I should be offended or just happy that the sword looks so badass. Afterwards, we're taught slightly more advanced combat with magic and flying enemies. Ignore morning prayer cause I don't know y'all like that yet, and then Angry Cat Man shows up and decides that we gotta die. Somebody really should give bro a Snickers bar. Using the cheer ability here, Kimari will go down fairly quickly without even needing to waste healing items. Fuck you. We get one last tutorial on summoning Aeons, and then we'll be off the island. We climb aboard the S.S Liki.
Huh?
Man, what a name. And meet the man, the myth, the legend, Wakka the 23rd. He's, nope. I don't know either. He asks us for some money, and depending on how much we give him here, his prices will change. So we're gonna give him 1,001 gil for now, so that his prices are only increased by 20% later on. Down in the engine room, we're introduced to these cuties and pick up our next Albed Primer before getting some more cutscenes. And Sin's back again.
Oh shit. Here we go again.
This thing just doesn't give up, does it? Tidus is basically useless in this fight, so we let Kimari, Wakka, and Lulu handle it. Then we'll get a follow-up boss with just Tidus and Wakka. This is kind of fucked up, isn't it? Yuna performs what is called ascending to release the spirits that died so they don't turn into fiends. We save a little girl and grab yet another primer. Next area, Yuna asks Tidus to be her guardian. He's a little bit conflicted, probably because he's still processing the whole your home was destroyed thing, and we begin working on our next achievement, learning. This achievement requires us to get every single one of Kimahri's overdrives by stealing them from different enemies during the game. I'll probably keep track of that somewhere on the screen, top left, top right, middle, I don't know, I'll choose a place. But for now, we loot some chests, get warned about a strong enemy, and kill it anyways because we're just built different.
I'm built different.
We push forward to the temple and fight yet another Sin spawn, and at this point, I feel like Sin's worse than an unskippable YouTube ad. Inside Kilika Temple, we meet a rival Blitzball team full of dickholes.
We've been praying for some competition this year.
This time, we play to win.
Ooh, play away.
Just remember, even kids can play, boys.
See you in the finals.
Waka's just too nice to people, I swear. And Donna, the walking ego plus her muscle-headed himbo. They think it's funny to throw us in the Cloister of Trials to get Yuna in trouble. Just like the first time, we take on the Cloister and once again disembark from the island. Onto a different boat to continue our trip, we find Donna getting way too physical with her himbo, pick up yet another primer, and deal with the dickholes from earlier again. After eavesdropping on Lulu and Waka and finding out they plan to abandon us and Luca, we have some daddy issue flashbacks. Here we have our one chance for quite a while to earn the Striker achievement. To be able to get this one, we need to learn the Ject shot that our dad told us we'd never be able to do. It's pretty easy to do though. After this little mini game of pushing the A button over and over again, we earn Striker. Yuna lets us know that our dad was her dad's guardian. Neat. Our next achievement requires us to win the upcoming Blitzball tournament, but that shouldn't be too bad. I'm kind of an ace at Blitzball. Keepa, you fucking loser. Oh my god, bro. But before we can do that, we meet this guy named Seymour.
Maester Seymour?
Grab another Albed primer, hear that Auron is in town, save Yuna from the Albed who kidnapped her, not important, don't worry, and then we'll finally take on the Blitzball tournament where I perform admirably. We just lose because they're all fucking crowded around each other like this. It's so bad. How the fuck are we tied? You guys fucking suck. We somehow managed to win in overtime, getting us the teamwork achievement, and then the stadium's attacked by more fiends. Auron helps us kick ass, and then Seymour wipes them all out with his cool ass Aeon. Afterwards, we get kicked in the dick with some plot that reveals that Sin is actually our dad. Yikes.
It is. Sin is.
We stop by the Luca Theater and pick up another Albed primer, then Auron and Tidus return to Yuna to become her guardians, because Auron promised both Ject and Yuna's father Braska. Then, we get probably one of the most infamous scenes in video game history. Our next achievement is all together, but we won't be getting that for a while, so we'll focus on the important stuff for now. We're told here all about the Calm, a time of peace after Sin is defeated where he doesn't show up again. Yuna's got a solo fight coming up as well, and we're kind of low on ability spheres, so I unlock Waka's extract ability, and we start grinding. We max out Valefor's overdrive, and while we're at it, I also knock out the self-destruct and fire breath overdrives for Kimahri off our list. Then we face Belgamine, a fellow summoner who wants to test Yuna. It ends up being pretty easy if you use the shield command. We take the win, get some gear, and we'll move on from there. As we keep going on our way, I ruin a child's day. So we go up to this Blitzball. Oops. Shit. I didn't mean to, I'm sorry. Meet up with Luzu and Gata, and we also meet this religious chick who really likes following the teachings of Yevon. Basically, the religion 99% of Spiro believes in. Waka gets a little bit racist.
But this isn't our bed shop.
Cry about it. And Auron tells him to shut the fuck up.
Is that a problem?
I'm not tired one bit.
I am.
But this isn't our bed shop.
We get this really sweet moment between Tidus and Yuna here where we genuinely start to connect. Honestly, their relationship is so refreshing. It's a cute dynamic that's surprisingly rare in a lot of modern JRPGs where it feels like developers are too afraid to commit to a single romance. I get that player choice is important, but man am I a sucker for a good romance. Next up, we sign our first Blitzball player, Rock, who is absolutely cracked. We get gifted an Albed primer from Rin, the owner of the travel agency, then it's back outside for the Chocobo Eater boss fight. This one's actually pretty unique, because to get the best rewards, you have to knock it onto its back and then push it off a cliff. Yeah, let's go! I haven't done that in so long. Afterwards, Rin thanks us, lets us ride the Chocobos to our next location, and on the way we make sure to snag the Mars Crest, which will be super important for the Celestial Weapon achievement later. Then we're gonna lend the next 9,000 to him here. Lending 9,000 here gets us up to 10,001, which will give us his discount later in the game. As we go on our merry little way, we pick up a primer from the side of the road, then we arrive at the next area, finding out that the Crusaders are cooking up something big called Operation Mihan, and we're blocked from going any further. But then who shows up but Mr. Blue Spiky Hair himself? He helps us get past the blockade, and it doesn't take long for us to discover exactly what Operation Mihan is all about. Turns out, the Crusaders, along with Seymour, who might I remind you is a maester of Yevon, basically one of the religious leaders, are planning to use forbidden machines to try and take down Sin. This does not sit well with Waka, but regardless of his feelings, we move forward with the plan. Along the way, we pick up another Albed primer for our growing collection, and then we stumble upon Luzu and Gata in a heated argument. After Gata storms off, we learn that Luzu was actually the one who convinced Waka's brother to join the Crusaders, leading to his death. Waka gives him a good punch for that, but in the end, they all manage to stay friends. Finally, onto the battlefield where we fight off yet another Sin spawn, and for a moment, it looks like the plan may actually work. Sin dies, and we can all live happily ever after.
Like that's ever gonna happen.
Instead, Sin completely obliterates the battlefield, leaving almost no one standing. It's a massive blow to everyone's morale, but all we can do is really keep pushing forward.
Yo guys, it's me, Charlie. Hey, did that guy just turn into sand?
Yeah, what was that?
In dark times, she must shine bright.
Huh? Whoa! Kimari actually speaks! He and Tidus have a surprisingly touching moment where they agree to stay strong for Yuna, complete with Kimari's wonderfully creepy yet kind of adorable Ronso smile. Our next destination is the Temple of Djose, where we're going to get our next Aeon. Inside, we meet Isaru. He pulls us aside and gives us a serious warning. Keep a close eye on Yuna, because summoners have been mysteriously disappearing around here lately. We head into the temple, solve the main puzzle, and as always, make sure to grab the destruction sphere too. Then, of course, we run into the himbo and the bimbo again. I'm kidding, mostly. But you gotta admit, it's pretty fitting. Yuna emerges, and just like that, we have our third Aeon, Ixion. The gang lightens the mood with some jokes to cheer Yuna up, which seems to work, and then it's onward to the Moonflow.
Yo, sleepyhead.
Please forgive me.
A summoner with bad hair. What's the world coming to?
We called to you, but with all that snoring. What is it today? Everyone's picking on me. Oh, you too, Sir Orin?
Once Lady Yuna fixes her hair, we leave.
But before we go, I backtracked to snag Albed Primer number 11, which I almost forgot. Can't miss those. Kimari's Ronso Rage Stone Breath is also in the area, so I make sure not to miss that while I'm here. Moving through the Moonflow, Kimari gets a bit of a hard time, and then we're warned about missing summoners again. Tidus, ever the pragmatist, just tells everyone to focus on their job and we'll be fine. Not long after, we encounter Belgamine once more and she's ready for round 2 with Yuna. Now that we have 2 Aeons at our disposal, for this fight, it's significantly easier than the first encounter. We take down her Ixion nice and quick, earning ourselves the Summoner Soul, which means we can now teach our Aeons new abilities, though spoiler alert, I'm not going to use that at all this entire playthrough. Finally, we reach the river that must be crossed by shoe puffs. Yes, let's ride this shoe puff. We hop on, and almost immediately, just as we were warned, Yuna gets kidnapped. Talk about timing. Waka and Tidus leap straight into the action, absolutely demolishing the Machina that grabbed her. Oh, big PB damage. That's what I like to see. Okay. Hey, that's some good ass damage. We make it to the other side of the Moonflow where we pick up our next primer and finally discover who was trying to snatch our summoner. Turns out it's Riku. Remember her? Lulu, Riku, and Yuna have a quick chat about some private girl matters, and then Riku is officially made a guardian. finally earning us that all together achievement I teased earlier. We get a quick tutorial on Riku's steel ability and her mixed overdrive, and now that we finally have our thief, it's time to head for Guadosalami. Once inside Guadosalami, we unlock the ability to customize our armor, which will be super handy later on, but more importantly, we meet Trommel, who informs us that Seymour really wants to see us. After grabbing Primer 13, we meet up with him. And this is where things get wild. He shows us a vision of Zanarkand and then out of nowhere drops a "Will you marry me" on Yuna. Buddy, she's 17! Yuna wisely decides not to answer right away, and we head to the far plane, the resting place for all the departed souls that Yuna and other summoners have been sending. We see Wakka's brother, which actually upgrades our sword, and discover that Lulu and he had a bit of a romantic history. That explains a lot. Of course, we also see Yuna's parents and Tidus' mom. Jack naturally doesn't show up since, well, he's Sin. Afterwards, Yuna goes to tell Seymour no to the wedding proposal, and we chat with Lulu, who warns us not to fall in love with her. I tell her too late, which doesn't do much except change Tidus' last overdrive, and as it turns out, Seymour's already left town, so it's time for us to begin our trek through the Thunder Plains. Ooh, spooky. But before that, head back to the far plane and grab the Venus Crest for later, along with some interesting little cutscenes that you could totally see if you go watch the playthrough on the second channel. Our next achievement, Lightning Dancer, isn't too far from here. As we make our way through the plains, it turns out Riku is deathly scared of lightning and thunder and begs us to stay at the travel agency for just a little bit. Riku's a little scared. God damn, don't zoom there.
Hey, whoa!
I want to go home. I hate lightning. I hate thunder.
I oblige because I got stuff to do here anyways, and we get a cutscene where Rin shows up and gives us the next primer. Hooray, more reading! We also overhear Yuna, who's taking a look at a sphere of Seymour's father, Jiskel. Weird. Wakka gives us a friendly chokeout before we leave, and about halfway through the plains, Yuna suddenly decides to change her mind about Seymour and decides that she is going to marry him. What the hell, Yuna?
Wait a minute, Orin. You don't care? I mean, you're not gonna stop her?
No, I'm not.
She does, however, agree to keep going on her pilgrimage, and we continue to move. Now, I start to do my first little grind here, and we grab the Lightning Dancer trophy for dodging 200 bolts of lightning in a row, along with unlocking the Warrior Overdrive mode for our main damage dealers. Tidus admits to Orin that he's really worried about Yuna, but Orin is convinced that she's got something up her sleeve. As we make our way through the forest, we're all approached by Bartello, who tells us that Donna is missing. Orin calmly handles the situation. While it might not seem like a huge plot point right now, it's definitely worth remembering for later. While we're here, we also make sure to grab Kimahri's next Ronso Rage from the Chimera enemy. Just a bit further ahead, Orin decides to take a small detour and leads us straight into a boss fight. Thanks a lot, Orin. Honestly, it's not too bad, and at the end we snag our first Jekt Sphere. These are crucial for unlocking Orin's overdrives and of course getting some juicy lore on what Jekt was up to before we came to Spira. Before moving on, here's another primer, followed by yet another, so we snag those. But it's not long before Trommel appears, ready to whisk Yuna away to Seymour. Luckily for us, the Al Bhed attacks shortly after. It's an easy fight, but it sets Wakka off when he discovers that Riku is an Al Bhed. Everyone jumps to her defense, and soon we're off to grab our next Aeon, which just happens to be one of my absolute favorites. I wonder why. Inside the temple, Tidus reveals Jiskel's sphere. Finally getting to watch it for ourselves, we get the truth. Seymour murdered his own father. Talk about family drama. This is all the proof our guardians need to go after Seymour. We catch up with Yuna and she rejoins us, kicking off the first of many Seymour boss fights. Honestly, it's pretty straightforward, and since I'm not a huge fan of the guy anyway, we kill him. Oops. Now we're branded traitors to Yevon. We hoped Jiskel's sphere would clear things up, but Trommel destroys it, taking our only proof of innocence with him. Fucking asshole. Even trying to escape gets us chased down by the Guado and attacked by a Yeti, which knocks us into the ice. Great. More bullshit.
Well, this sucks.
After some intense deliberation, who shows up but Sin? It's been a while, so I'm not actually mad about it this time. Just like he brought us to Spira, he now sends us to the Bikanel desert. We regroup one by one with everybody except Yuna, who's actually been kidnapped this time. But hey, we grab our next two primers. Get used to hearing that, because we'll be collecting quite a few here. Orange shows off his baseball skills. Goodbye.
Home run!
And Riku directs us to home. That's actually the name of this Al Bhed stronghold, but it turns out the Yevonites are already here attacking the place. So much for a warm welcome. All we find are bodies and Uncle Sid. At least Sid's cool. If you miss any primers here, they're gone forever, so definitely don't do that. Or do? I'm not your dad. We collect 3 more for our collection, and Riku reveals that this is where the summoners were being taken. We find both Donna and Isaru here, and that's when we get one big ass reveal. The entire point of this pilgrimage is to get the final Aeon. and when it's summoned to kill Sin, Yuna will also die.
If they don't, and they get to Zanarkand, they might defeat Sin. Yuna will die, you know? Summoner's journey to get the final Aeon. Yuna told you, didn't she? With the final Aeon, she can beat Sin. But then, if she calls it, then the final Aeon's gonna kill her. Even if she defeats Sin, it will kill Yuni too, you know?
Sid helps us escape on his airship, and we blow up home. It's definitely a somber end seeing the Al-Bhed lose something they care so much about, but it's what had to be done. It also gives us this scene.
Hey, look, don't get so down. Boom! Like happy festival fireworks, yeah?
You can cram your happy festival, you big meanie.
Now, time to locate Yuna. Turns out she's in Bevelle, and this time Seymour isn't taking no for an answer. He's gonna marry her no matter what she says. Oh, and yeah, he's dead, but he's kind of a zombie now since he was never sent to the far plane by a summoner. You know, I never thought just how creepy this whole situation is. Regardless, it's up to us now to save her. We slay a dragon and charge into the wedding ceremony with one of the coolest cutscenes in the game. Making sure to pick up the thrust kick overdrive for Kimahri while we're at it. At the end of the day though, we're too late and Seymour kisses Yuna, who promptly jumps off a building out of disgust. Okay, that's not exactly how it goes down, but it's funnier that way. Don't worry, Yuna's safe. We then make our way down into the next cloister and Waka points out that there's Machina in the temple, not to mention our next primer. Guess the church isn't as sacred as we once thought, huh? This cloister honestly sucks ass through a straw, but nevertheless, we complete it and meet up with Yuna to be put on trial. When we try to explain the situation to the headmaester, it turns out he's unsent too. Man, this whole religion's full of nutcases ignoring their own scriptures at every turn. We're of course sentenced to death because duh. However, their idea of a death sentence is throwing us into a pool of water filled with monsters without even taking our gear away, so yeah, they're kinda dumb. Isaru ends up showing up to try and stop us, but instead we hit him with a Shiva ult and grab our achievement Power Strike for hitting 9,999 damage in one attack. Get the fuck out of here with your shitty ass Aeon and your garbage tier over. After our escape, Seymour shows up again and guess what? It's boss fight time. Honestly, this fight is usually a lot harder, but I'm quite a bit stronger than I normally am at this point in the game, so we take him down no problem. Using Yuna's new reflect ability, we can take this fight down without even having to break a sweat, alongside Lulu's poison, of course. Well, or he'll end up killing himself. Our group somehow makes their way back to Macalania and we get one of my favorite scenes in FFX. This scene honestly never fails to make me cry. The music, the timing, it's just so perfect and I am such a sucker for a good romance. This also gets us the achievement Heartstrings. Our group then makes their way to the Calm Lands, which is where we'll spend the majority of our time during the endgame. Here we grab primer number 23 and then begin going after the achievement Chocobo Rider and Chocobo License by doing the Chocobo Trainer minigame, of course. It's honestly not too bad this time around. I remember spending hours on this a long time ago, but this time it only took me 2 tries for the race and 6 or so for the bird dodging. After completing our first 3 rounds of training, we get the license achievement, and by not messing up the race and getting a time of 0, we not only pick up the Chocobo Rider achievement, but also the Sun Sigil for later. Before we go after anything else, we run into a Mulboro and get Kimahri the Bad Breath overdrive. Belgamine is also here, and we ruin her Aeons pretty easily at this point. So not much to say there. But she does tell us to meet her at Remium Temple, which we go ahead and do, grabbing ourselves another primer in the process. Belgamine this time re-challenges us to take down every single one of her Aeons, which we can't actually do right now because we're missing 3. However, I do go ahead and decide to get a head start on this. Back outside, we can start grabbing our next achievement, Chocobo Master. To do this, we need to hop on this Chocobo just outside the temple and win a race while also picking up 5 chests along the way. It's just barely possible to do this, and it definitely took me a few tries. This also gets us the Cloudy Mirror, needed for getting all the celestial weapons. Back in the Calm Lands, we enter this little area off to the right, and this is the Monster Arena. It's where we're going to be spending most of our time later on. For now, all you need to know is this guy here asks us to catch 10 of every enemy in the game and gives us some weapons to let us do that. So from this point on, every time we enter a new area, you can assume that I'm going to go ahead and collect 10 of each enemy, because me saying that every single time would just be annoying as hell. So we go ahead and catch 10 of each enemy in the Comlands and then move on where we're ambushed by some of Seymour's goons, and it ends about as easily as you'd expect, with our victory. From here, we actually kind of have a choice. We either move up the mountain to continue the story at Mount Gagazet, or delve into the valley for some optional achievements and goodies. You already know which way I'm heading. Down here, we can go after the It's All About Money achievement for snagging the first of 3 secret Aeons, but before that, we gotta make sure to grab Kimahri's overdrive from the ghost enemy here and pick up our next primer, of course. By making it to the end of the cavern, we run into an old summoner that Lulu used to guard. After absolutely destroying her Aeon, we can enter the Fayth chamber and meet Yojimbo. We tell him that we need his help to beat the most powerful enemies because that will make sure he gives us the lowest possible price, and then we haggle his price down a little bit more, and eventually we fork over a whopping 190,350 gil. Damn, good thing it's not useful for anything else. Don't worry, it's worth every single penny. Yojimbo has an attack that can literally one-shot anything in the entire game, including the super bosses. Talk about useful. Regardless, it's time to leave this place, but before we do, I also grabbed this rusty sword for later. Now it's time to tackle Mount Gagazet. The Ronso here, including the ones who were bullying Kimahri earlier, decide to block our path, calling us traitors, but Yuna with a heartfelt speech clears things up pretty well, and their leader finally relents, allowing us up the mountain. But before that though, these two decide it's time for Kimahri to prove himself. You can actually snag 2 more overdrives here for Kimahri, so definitely don't forget those. We still need that achievement. After Kimahri wins, we get a nice scene with our new Ronso friends and can finally make our way up the mountain. Our second Jek Sphere's just chilling over here, so don't forget to grab that too. As we climb, we meet Wants. We've actually seen him a few times. He kind of did snap a creepy picture of Yuna earlier, but I mean, this is our first formal introduction. Turns out he's Owaka's brother, stepping in after Owaka got tossed in jail for helping us. With that little interesting bit of info out of the way, we keep climbing, eventually reaching the summit, and guess who shows up? This dude just doesn't give up, does he? This fight ends up being a bit tricky. It's actually probably the hardest boss fight I've had up until this point, and he nearly takes us down quite a few times, but at the end of the day, I'm still built different, so we eventually knock his bitch ass off his pedestal. And with that, Tidus finally reveals the truth about Sin being his father, which surprisingly goes over pretty well.
You hit your head.
Also, before we head into the caves, don't forget to grab this hidden chest before leaving. We'll need it for Kimahri's Celestial. Heading into this next area, we're gonna get the biggest lore drop of the entire game. Tidus decides to touch this wall of bodies, which knocks him out cold, but it's very crucial for the plot. While Tidus is unconscious, we talk to the Fayth, and he reveals something pretty shocking. Tidus, Jekt, and everyone else from Zanarkand are just dreams. This might be a bit confusing, but for those interested, let me explain. A long time ago, there was a war between Bevelle and Zanarkand was decimated. That's when Yevon, the leader of Zanarkand at the time, sacrificed the city's people and turned them into Fayth. In doing so, he preserved the memories of Zanarkand into this new dream Zanarkand that never sleeps. That's where Tidus and Jekt are from. To defend this new dream Zanarkand, Yevon created Sin, a creature that would perpetually return to protect the city and destroy any city that relied on Machina. This would prevent anyone from ever finding Dream Zanarkand by traveling there via airships and whatnot. So yeah, Tidus didn't actually come from 1,000 years in the past. He was always here in Spira, and that Zanarkand is still out there in the middle of the ocean near Baaj Temple where we started the game. All Jekt did was attack the city and transport Tidus outside of it, bringing him to the main part of Spira. All those bodies on the wall here at Gagazet, they're all Fayth summoning Dream Zanarkand. Isn't that cool? After Tidus wakes up with this new revelation of not technically being a real person, he keeps it to himself, and we move up to the Gagazet caves. We tackle a few puzzles here and emerge at the top of the mountain. Ignore the boss, it wasn't tough. Just poison him with Lulu, then smack him around for a bit. Finally, we've made it to Zanarkand. The real Zanarkand, destroyed over 1,000 years ago, and yeah, it really is in ruins. Riku has a moment where she realizes Yuna's gonna die soon, but come on, you know it can't end like that. As we keep walking, Yuna drops a sphere from her robes and we watch it. It's her last words to us all, and it's pretty sweet even if it's unfinished. Finally, we're here. where the game began in the first place. Making our way through Zanarkand is pretty easy, all things considered, but as we get closer and closer to the end, we begin seeing figments of many summoners who made this journey before us, including Yuna's father. We complete the Zanarkand cloister, fight a boss that again doesn't matter because it dies super fast, and at the bottom, we find Lord Zaon's Aeon, which has lost its power. Well, guess that means the journey's over. Guess we can go home. No final Aeon for us. Too bad in reality, that's not how it works. As we go further in, we end up meeting Lady Yunalesca, Lord Zaon's wife, Yuna's namesake, and the first summoner to ever defeat Sin. She reveals to us that one of Yuna's guardians is going to be sacrificed and turned into her final Aeon. Yuna will summon it, killing her. The Aeon will kill Sin, bring about the calm, and then Yevon will use it to make a new Sin, which is exactly what happened to Jecht when he traveled with Yuna's father in Orin 10 years ago. Well, at least now we know why he's Sin. So basically, Sin will always come back no matter how much people atone for their sins. The teachings of Yevon are bullshit. Nice. Yuna and the gang decide enough is enough, and we fight Yunalesca, choosing to finally end her life after all this time and find a new, more permanent way to kill Sin. This fight with Yunalesca I remember on PS4 taking me so long to get down, but here, I actually make quite a few mistakes and still come out on top. I'm not sure if it's because I know the mechanics of the fight now, or if maybe because my characters are hitting harder than usual, but in the end, we take Yunalesca down and earn us the achievement Overcoming the Past. Before we leave, however, don't forget to pick up the Sun Crest. If you miss it, you can't get all the celestial weapons without taking down the Dark Aeons first, and that would really suck. As we're leaving the temple, Orin comes over to us and tells us, hey, guess what? I'm also dead. Been dead for a while. Yeah, Yunalesca killed me when I got angry at her. Is anybody in this game alive? After leaving the temple, Sin shows up, but I think now it's more appropriate to say Jecht shows up. He kind of talks to Tidus, and Tidus promises that he'll find a way to end this. Jecht leaves without causing us any harm, and we board the airship. Before we begin anything crazy, we gotta head back to Bevelle, and let's just say Yevon is not having a good time thanks to us. Maester Micah, bless his undead heart, decides that we've messed things up so royally that he just gives up and sends himself to the far plane.
Peace out, queefs.
Honestly, saves us the trouble of sending him. We then go ahead and head down towards the Fayth and put our heads together. Together, we decide that we'll use the Hymn of the Fayth, the one that plays in all the temples, to calm Sin, since Jecht likes it so much. That'll give us the perfect window to finally take it down. But hold on a minute. Before we even think about all that, this is the end game, people. It's time for the biggest, most soul-crushing grind of my life. Before we move on, you're clearly enjoying this video, or you wouldn't be here. So how about subbing to the channel to stay up to date and voting on future games we play? Leave a like, comment, all that jazz, and let's blast through this super quick because trust me, it's a marathon. First up, we're making a quick detour back to Zanarkand. We need to complete the cloister's destruction sphere to snag our very last Aeon. After that, it's a trip back to Macalania Woods to upgrade our cloudy mirror to the celestial mirror. This bad boy is essential for getting all of the ultimate weapons for our party. We'll grab this Jecht sphere here, and then quick side quest to reunite this family, and ta-da! Mirror upgraded. Now prepare yourselves for one of the most rage-inducing challenges in this game, catching these goddamn butterflies. This is required to get the Saturn sigil, and I am not exaggerating just how annoying this was. The first time I completed it, I was so close to the exit, I accidentally walked off into the loading screen, chest despawned, and I had to do it all over again. Next, using the password Godhand on our airship, we unlock the location to grab Riku's celestial weapon, also named Godhand. Then it's off to Baaj Temple to pick up the Feel the Pain achievement. We can snag this as long as we've cleared every destruction sphere in the game. After taking down that massive beast from the very beginning, we make sure to also grab Lulu's celestial weapon, which is just chilling in a chest over here. Then inside Baaj Temple, we can activate all these statues, each one for a destruction sphere that we did earlier, and enter us the Chamber of the Fayth for a quick chat with Seymour's mom. Turns out she's the Aeon Anima. We kind of picked this up from a cutscene earlier, but I didn't really mention it, but now you know. She agrees to help us stop her son, and that nets us the aforementioned achievement. Orin's celestial weapon is next. We're heading back to Mihen and taking a left just to avoid a Dark Aeon encounter with the Magus sisters, and using that rusty sword we found earlier, along with the celestial mirror, we can transform it into Orin's Masamune. Seriously such a cool looking sword. Time for Kimahri's, which is back at the Thunder Plains. We start to activate those Cactuar statues we passed by earlier, and while we're here, pick up another Jecht sphere along the way. Following this little Cactuar ghost leads us right to Kimahri's celestial weapon. Nice, almost there. Now for our next thingy, we have to do an absurd amount of running around. By stopping at this Cactuar monument in Bikanel, we can slowly but surely find 10 different Cactuars scattered across the desert, running back and forth through this huge ass area. On PS4, this was boring as hell. Luckily enough, here in the PC version, we have speed ups, so I'm definitely making use of that. Once we have all 10, the sandstorm clears and we can finally grab the Mercury Sigil. Finally, for the last 2, we swing by the calm lands to grab Tidus's and Yuna's. Tidus's just involves opening this secret wall down here. You do have to complete the Chocobo training to be able to do it, but since we did that earlier, we're good to go. And Yuna's only requires turning in our monster captures. Turning in those captures also gets us the Blossom Crown, which means we can go after our next 2 achievements, Delta Attack and Summon Master. We're getting the last Aeon of FFX, the Mega Sisters, right here in Remium Temple. This also means we can take on Belgamine one last time and finish her quest line, which nets us the Moon Sigil. Only a couple of crests and sigils left, but god damn is this a lot. The last 2 things we have to collect require us to tackle Blitzball. But before that, we grab another Jack Sphere. Hooray! After playing way too much Blitzball for one lifetime, we snag a lot of stuff. We pick up the status reels, attack reels, and Auroch reels for Waka, which gets us the Blitzball Master Achievement. And then for beating a tournament, we get Show Off. Then on top of that, by completing those, we can play another tournament to grab the Jupiter Sigil. Luckily for us, the Jupiter Crest and Waka's ultimate weapon don't actually require us to do any more Blitzball, so I grabbed those from the locker room and the cafe nearby. I can't remember if we get the achievement for all Celestials now or after powering them up, so I'll hold off for showing that for a moment. First, let's head back to the Moonflow for another Jack Sphere. I think this is number 6. Then number 7 is located back near where we got one of Auron's weapon crests. And number 8 is on board the S.S Liki. Then it's finally time to head back to Macalania and awaken all of our Celestial weapons and net ourselves the Weapon Master Achievement. Whew, that was a mouthful, but we're still not done. Next up, we're gonna go talk to Wance at the entrance of the forest to pick up some 4-slot blank armor from him. We need these in order to create the best armor in the game. It's expensive as hell, but it's absolutely worth it. Time to head to the Omega Ruins and collect the last remaining enemies outside of Sin for capture. Since we've now captured every enemy, I can start grinding in the monster arena. We end up having to not only grind Gil, but a shit ton of items for every one of our characters, in order for us to get the skills Break HP Limit, Ribbon, Auto Phoenix, and Auto Haste, which I'll be putting on every single one of the characters. This creates, in my opinion, what is probably the most overpowered and best armor in the entire game. Oh yeah, we also get the last of Tidus's overdrives while we're at it. Now it's time to jump into Sin. Not because I want to do the ending right now, but because there are fiends in there we need to capture before moving on to filling out the sphere grid. So we set our plan in motion. Our ship plays the Hymn of the Fayth, and everyone down in Spira sings along to calm Sin down. That's our cue to attack. First, we fight off Sin at the top of the airship, weakening both of its fins before Sid and Brother down inside blast him and break off a nice big chunk. Then it's time to jump off the ship and onto Sin itself to take it down fully. After a relatively easy boss fight, Sin crashes down in Bevelle before perching himself on top of the highest point and waiting for us. That's when we begin the main fight with the big beast. It's honestly pretty anticlimactic as 4 hits from Anima takes him down without much effort. This Aeon is straight up the most overpowered thing in the game until you end up filling out the sphere grid. Now that we're finally inside Sin, we start working on capturing all the monsters here that I couldn't get over at the Omega Ruins. And at the end of the path, guess who we run into? Just take a quick guess at who the hell is blocking our path this time. Yup, it's Seymour. Again. Dude, get a life and go touch some grass. Holy shit. Now, I'll admit I've never done this fight legit and I don't intend to start now. So, we use his own mom to kick his ass on a couple of hits, and finally, Yuna is able to send him, which nets us the destination of hatred. Good riddance. At this point, I spent an absurd amount of time maxing out the sphere grid. Seriously, I'm not even joking. That wasn't just grinding every character to max over and over again. Oh no. We had to use clear spheres to wipe out every single sphere from the grid and meticulously place new +4 spheres in their place. But eventually, it nets us 4 achievements. Through this long ass grind, we end up getting not only 200 steals with Riku, which gets us a talent for acquisition, but we spend well over 100,000 gil on bribes, which nets us the Under the Table achievement. Then by finishing the grid itself, we unlock both Sphere Master and Perfect Sphere Master. Now that we're completely maxed out, we can make one last return to the Omega Ruins and not only grab the final Elbed Primer for the Master Linguist achievement, but since we're hitting max damage now, we also earn Mega Strike.
Hey, that's pretty good.
At the very end of the dungeon, we also take on Omega Weapon, which I have to say is one of the easiest endgame bosses I've ever seen, as long as you're completely powered up, of course. Our next series of challenges is pushing towards the Perseverance achievement. This requires us to take down every single Dark Aeon and then the super boss Penance. Only a few of these are truly worth mentioning, so let's talk about them. Heading back to Besaid Village, we confront the Dark Aeon Valefor, and the only reason I'm mentioning Valefor is because we need to beat him to get our next Ject Sphere. Only one more to go before we can claim that achievement. Dark Anima and Dark Bahamut are the only other ones really worth highlighting, mostly because they're so insanely overtuned that the fights just become a boring war of attrition. It's not that they can just kill you in 3 hits even with maxed out health, it's the sheer tediousness of hitting 99,999 damage with literally every single attack, and they still take well over 20 minutes to beat. But eventually, with our last Dark Aeon defeated, we've officially unlocked the ultimate boss, Penance. We can worry about him later. There's another super boss we need to tackle for a few more achievements. With the last Dark Aeon dead and gone, we can go ahead and pick up the last Ject Sphere from up here on Mihen High Road and collect the Messenger from the past achievement. Here, I systematically take down every single special enemy, which finally unlocks the fight with Nemesis. Before we begin properly engaging the guy though, we gotta use Kimahri's Suck ability to snag his final Ronso Rage and earn us the Learning Achievement. That one was a long time coming. Now, I think it's important here just to stress just how strong this boss is. I mean, it's not just like you can waltz in here, use Yojimbo, and pay him 1,000,000 gil to insta-kill. Oh wait, he's dead.
Oh, how awful. Did he at least die painlessly? To shreds, you say?
Well, I'm sure Penance will be a lot harder. I mean, he's one of the highest HP bosses in the Final Fantasy history. A whopping 12 million HP. That's a colossal amount, and I'm sure he's immune to Yojimbo, right? Right?
Sing, 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 sing.
How is his wife holding up? To shreds, you say?
Well, the last thing we have to do before taking on Sin is to head to the Luca Theater and buy every single sphere here, which nets us the Theater Enthusiast achievement. Damn, we just earned a lot in a row, huh? It's kind of funny, we earned very little achievements throughout the entire game, and then all of a sudden we get like 15 in a row. But hey, this is it. We head back into Sin and finally confront Big Daddy Ject, and after him and Tidus have a heart-to-heart, he turns into his Aeon. None of these fights will be anywhere near tough, by the way they mostly end in 1 to 3 hits. Ject being no exception. While he has one of the coolest boss themes in gaming, which I can't show here because it's copywritten, you just won't hear much of it. Now, I didn't explain earlier, but in order to take down Yu Yevon and end Sin and Dream Zanarkand for good, Yuna's going to have to summon each of her Aeons one by one and let Yu Yevon begin to fuse with them. As he's trying to make a new Aeon, we kill them while they're small, and eventually Yu Yevon himself. I love this concept, I just don't like how the cutscenes during this fight are like 15 minutes long. We one-shot Yu Yevon as God intended, and Sin is no more. While the whole world celebrates, Auron is finally ready to move on and is sent by Yuna. Not to mention the guy she's madly in love with is going to now disappear from Spira forever. He was technically only a dream after all. Tidus and everyone else has their awkward goodbyes, and while Tidus and Yuna say their I love yous, which of course makes me cry, I'm telling you man, romance. But on the bright side, we earn the achievement, the Eternal Calm. But there is one last achievement we need to grab, so hold on a moment. When we catch back up with Yuna post-credits, she's over in Luca talking to the people of Spira. It's a nice speech that cements the game having a sad but also very good ending that will be ruined by future media of the series. For our last and final achievement, however, all we have to do is go view the Eternal Calm cutscene that came with the HD remaster. I'm not ready to explain it right here, but I'll talk about it if you guys ever decide you want to see X2. For now though, we snag a Journey's Catalyst, making Final Fantasy X mission complete, and marking it as the 4th game we've done on the channel. I hope you guys enjoyed this journey, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Bye bye!